Also in the semi-finals, we're starting to see, you know, a player that's been kind of moulded by Klopp really coming into the light there.
Well, that's the Klopp genius, because it's not about skill when it comes to Klopp. It's about really making players believe in themselves. The speech against Barcelona was like, I know this is impossible, but I know you guys can do it. And that's the kind of coach Klopp is. And then you see it on the players, because football, no matter how technical it gets, at the end of the day, it's about believing in yourself as a player. And that's what you saw with Origi or other players that, you know, Wijnaldum, when he came into that game also, he changed it. So Klopp, you know, plants this belief in his players. And so they don't believe that there's a superstar in the team, that they're not worthy enough. If you're on the bench, if you're in the starting 11, you're still going to play the same way. And that's what we've seen in the semifinals. And today, when Firmino, you know, he wasn't in his best game and he's coming back from the injury. So yeah, beautiful game by Origi, but also beautiful game from everyone, because they just believe in their coach and then believe in the t-shirt they play for.
Of course, there's always got to be a losing side, Firas. Let's talk a little bit about Tottenham, because Pochettino, their 5 years as Spurs manager, I mean, he's also done quite an amazing job, it has to be said.
Spurs should be very proud of today and the whole thing that they've done this season, because you look at Manchester City, and over 3 years they spent like 800 million euros. Liverpool spent over 200. Tottenham Spurs spent 29 this year, only 29 million on bringing players into the team. And then there was another project, which is building the stadium. And everyone in Spurs were just extremely happy to the fact that they've reached the semifinals for the first time. So, you know, coming this far, finishing in the top 3 in the Premier League, playing the way they play, they've come with a lot of difficulties, a lot of injuries. Harry Kane was absent for most of the season. So I think Pochettino should be very proud, and he is one of the best managers out there. And I mean, today's game, it wasn't good, but overall, you shouldn't forget that they had a very great season. I just want to say that what's also so impressive this season about Liverpool is the amount of disappointment they had to go through, and that yet they kept going. I mean, at one point, City, when they won the game against Leicester City, the game was over, the Premier League was over, and the following day they had the game against Barcelona, and yet they managed to keep it together, come in with the strong spirit, strong character, and win. And they played the final Premier League round, and they gave it all they could. That factor where there's a lot of disappointment, a lot of hits that the team kept taking, and yet they kept on going and believing till the very last second. That's inspirational. That was what's so amazing about Liverpool this season. It was the first time that 4 teams from the same country take over, you know, the European finals. But also, I think the fact that English teams don't get a break in the middle of the season, that's a main factor, because when everyone comes back to the round of the 16s completely refreshed, you know, they had their break. The English teams are killing each other. You know, there's Boxing Day, there's a lot of, you know, shocking games that take place. And so that was always a factor that damaged the English teams and the English sides. And they always complained to the English FA to figure out the calendar. And I think this season, maybe a main factor is the fact that most teams playing in European leagues lost the Premier League already. So it was only Liverpool and City competing. So these teams had the chance to actually focus on the European competition. So for Liverpool and City, well, that's something else that I can't explain, that they've managed to actually compete for the Premier League all the way till the end, and then Liverpool doing this.
I mean, just before we went to Madrid for us, we spoke about, you know, neither team choosing this the easy route to get to Madrid. Of course, Tottenham seeing off Ajax, something that people weren't necessarily expecting in the semi-finals. If we think about today's match, you know, there's been a lot of talk about Harry Kane. Was he going to start for Tottenham? Wasn't he? You know, people now asking whether it was a gamble too far to play Harry Kane, given the injuries that he's had recently and how much he's struggled with his ankle.
Well, in games like this, even if you're not fresh, even if you're not in your best form, experience is important. How to manage different moments of the game, and that's where you need Harry Kane. You need a leader who will talk to the player, who would manage the players, who would, you know, help his teammates gain the confidence against a strong side. And maybe Pochettino believed in that more than the necessity of being fresh and in great form. Also, Harry Kane is a figure in Spurs, so he's the leader that will lead through this battle. That, you know, and that's where Pochettino maybe made a mistake. He really counted on experience versus is he fresh, is he ready to play this game? But let's not forget that this wasn't the best of finals and that everyone was almost out of shape during a long break and then extreme heat today.
He had already awarded a very controversial penalty in the last 16 to Manchester United against Paris Saint-Germain. So he was already being seen as someone who could make controversial calls. And I think the debate is going to be going on about how referees decide whether it's a deliberate handball, not deliberate.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there is a new set of rules that comes into effect today, and part of which is that the second the ball touches a player's hand, it's a foul, regardless of any interpretations. Because in the previous rule, there's a lot of interpretations. Whether is he interrupting the trajectory of the ball? Was that intentional? But now they wanted to kind of cut that debate. But the problem is that those rules do not come into effect in this season's Champions League. So basically, the way he ruled it, we don't know, you know. So it's a debatable penalty that I think is going to be all over the press in the next day. So we'll see.
Jurgen Klopp and his side.
I want to look back at his season, if you don't mind.
Let's.
I mean, what an amazing season for Liverpool. The way that they believed throughout the disappointment, throughout the hard times, and they kept on going. But also, what a Champions League season. It was a season of where impossible was nothing. And comebacks here, comebacks there, remontadas here. It was unbelievable for Ajax to come, you know, to the semi-finals with a promising team. For De Ligt, who's 19, to play as a team leader who has 20 years of experience. Lionel Messi being at his best yet once again, and then losing in that way. It was an unbelievable season. We've seen everything, and despite this final, I think this was by far the best Champions League season.